Hey, how you doing there? My name's Dutch, and I'm here to give you the Week 3 review of the GZB Fantasy Football League. So, let's start off with our defending champs, the Grabowskis versus Sir Lancelots. Now, the Grabowskis are entering this with a two-game losing streak, while Coach Neil P. and his Grabowskis, also known as the defending champs, are still on the hunt for that elusive first victory. The Lancelots, they earned their second one with a 14-point victory. With an injury to Brandon Marshall on a terrible game by the Green Bay QB, Aaron Rodgers, the Grabowskis have the work cut out for the rest of this season. Their Sir Lancelot's got a giant lift from salsa dancer extraordinaire Victor Cruz, who caught 5 passes for 107 yards and 1 touchdown as he led the Lancelots to the victory over their Grabowskis. Next up, we got the GZB Autopilot versus the Northern Authority. The Autopilots, they were coming in. They finished this week at 1-2-0, and the Northern Authority with sole possession of the lead of, number one in the league. Northern Authority with a 3-0, 3-game winning streak. Quite the opposite from the Grabowskis. So, the GZB Autopilots had two players this week in the primetime player position. One was Jeremy Maclin from the wide receiver from the Eagles. He scored 29 fantasy points on 8 catches for a total of 154 yards and 1 touchdown. Also, he had DeMarcus Murray, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He added to the GZB Autopilot's losing effort by adding 21 fantasy points with 100 yards on 24 carries, with 131 total yards and 1 touchdown. The Northern Authority, aka Team Canada, they handed out the schlanking with 3 players doing major damage. Ex-teammates Drew Brees and Reggie Bush were on one end, and as they answered Coach Carmen's call of victory to extend their winning streak to 3 games. Drew Brees from the New Orleans Saints, he had 23 fantasy points, 27 out of 35 completions, totaling in 293 yards. 7 yards away from 300, man. You suck, bro. Anyway, he had 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Reggie Bush, I love that Bush. Reggie Bush, the running back from the Detroit Lions, had 12 carries with 61 total rushing yards, and then he also caught 6 passes for an additional 38 catching yards, and he ended up with 1 touchdown. And now Colin Karma secure his victory. Rookie sensation. Um, what the hell did I write here? Anyway, the kid from the Carolina Panthers, he had 25 fantasy points with 8 receptions for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. Interesting. Okay. Now, if we go over to the High Flyers versus Stomp the Yard, uh, well, uh, Stomp the Yard had a few primetime players. First off, they had Nick Folks, the QB from the Eagles. He had 32 fantasy points this week. He did that with 28 out of 42 completed passes, a total of 325 yards, leading to 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's picking up where he left off last season as they won over Washington. Now, the High Flyers, they rode the back of its dynamic duo, Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch from the Boom. Yeah, so Russell Wilson scored 27 fantasy points on 258 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 INT. Interesting. While his home thizzle, Marshawn Lynch, he added to the High Flyers total with 88 total yards on 26 rushing attempts and 2 TDs. 1 rushing and 1 receiving. That's my guy. Yeah, that boost added 27 points to the High Flyers as they cruised to victory over Stomp the Yard. That's my team. The High Flyers. Anyhow, so now we're going on to Coach Tab and his Golf Grenadiers versus my home Thizzle Joe and the Cactus Killers. Now, the Golf Grenadier team, they found a lot of offensive power behind the Indianapolis Colts quarterback, young sensation Andrew Luck, and the Atlanta Falcons wide receivers, best known catcher as Julio Jones. Now, Luck led the way for the Grenadiers with 39 fantasy points on 370 passing yards. Woo! 370! And he connected on 31 passes out of 39 attempts. He only missed 8 targets. That's my guy right there. That's fucking awesome. Anyway, this led to 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Double J helped the Grenadiers. That's Double J. That's Julio Jones, if you don't know that. As he caught 9 passes while he was targeted 11 times. He only dropped 2 balls. That's my guy right there. 2 balls. Anyway, he racked up 161 yards and scored 2 touchdowns, as he scored 37 points for Coach T, which after the game, Coach T said, "I'm fucking ecstatic." That's what he told me personally, but, whatever, anyway. The Cactus Killers, now they fell out of first place with this lopsided loss by one player was only able to surpass his projected fantasy total, and that was QB Matt Ryan. He went for 21 for 24 completed passes with 286 yards as he threw for 3 touchdown passes in the Falcons' Week 3 blowout win against Tampa Bay. That was a game to watch. Now, we end up to my homies, C&J Auto versus the Heisenbergs. Team Heisenberg was finally able to win their first victory by the smallest victory margin this week. They only won by 1 point. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, so Team Heisenberg had they were led by a high-flying drop kicker, Antonio Brown. Yeah. Cha! He scored 30 fantasy points, and he didn't drop a single pass as he caught 10 passes for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. I bet you nobody got in his way when he was running down the hill. When he was running down to that touchdown, everybody just moved because they saw like, nah, man, I ain't getting drop kicked. I ain't going to be on SportsCenter this week again. Not that way. Anyway, now, them Auto Boys, they dropped the game even with the prime time performance from Peyton Manning, who had 303 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 INT. Probably cost you the game, Coach Auto. That 1 INT. And now, last but not least, we go on to D's Nuts versus Hold My Coltrane. Now, Hold My Coltrane, they got a close win as they managed to beat D's Nuts by a total of 3 points. Now, Hold My Coltrane's attack was led by Pierre Garcon, who scored 1 touchdown after catching 11 passes out of 16 times he was targeted. That's for a total of 138 yards and 30 fantasy points. Very, very nice. So then, Jay Cutler, the second leading scorer for the Hold My Coltranes. That's the quarterback out of Chicago, if you know who that is. Neil knows. Yeah, he does. Anyway, so he scored 20 fantasy points and added 225 passing yards, 1 fumble, and 1 touchdown. 1 fumble. 1 fumble. 1 fucking fumble, bro? Really? Really, man? 1 fumble? Anyhow, so let's go ahead and now Coach Chismo and his nuts. La sombra. Or as we like to say, the misa. Yeah, the misa. So, back to Coach Chismo and his nuts. They were able to cover the Coltrane's wide girth as Michael Crabtree was the only player to put up big points. What would have happened if Coltrane would have played Jordan Matthews? That would have been bad. Now, before I go, let's go ahead and let's take a look at our new standings. Back, number 1, we got the Northern Authority. Number 2, we got the Golf Grenadiers. Number 3, we got the High Flyers. Number 4, we have the Hold My Coltranes. Number 5, we have Sir Lancelot's. Number 6, the Cactus Killers. Number 7, Stomp the Yard. And in the 8th position, we have C&J Auto, followed by D's Nuts, the GZB Autopilot, Heisenberg, and in sole possession of position number 12, last year's defending champ holding steady at 0-3, the Grabowskis. Well, this has been all for this week's Final Fantasy Update. I'll catch you next week. More stats, more fun. Let's do it, and let's get GZB.